So I'd like to call to order the Armory Park Historic Zone Advisory Board of Tuesday, October 21st, 2025 at 6:31 p.m. And we'll start with roll call. Helen Erickson,
Present.
Maurice Roberts,
Present.
Stan Schumann, Stan,
Use mute.
uh,
Sorry, my audio is off. I'm here.
okay, and Lynn Sutherland.
Here.
Okay. Matt Smith. So he has not attended yet, and I'll note if he does attend at what time. Then we have guests as well. And so maybe we'll have our guests introduce themselves. It helps in the minutes. So Ruby, perhaps I saw you had joined pretty early, so if you can introduce yourself. Oh, we can't hear you though. Oh. Miles, we'll start with you and then we'll come back. Ruby, we'll come back to you.
Great. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, hi. My name is Miles Pena. I'm the architect working on 702 South 3rd Avenue for a garage addition there.
Mhm. Ruby, do you want to try it again?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Hi. So I'm Ruby Del Campo. I'm actually, I work with Zona Investments LLC. So I'm here to participate in the 306 South 3rd Avenue project.
Thank you. And we have a guest, John Burr.
Hi.
Are you officially a citizen advisor?
Yes, I'm a citizen advisor.
I am. I'm so sorry to call you a guest.
It's fine. I'm not on the board.
Thank you, John. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's everyone. Has everyone had a chance to introduce themselves in?
Jose.
Jose, I see.
Hey, good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
My name is Jose Curtis. I'm representing GGB Designs. We're the architects that are doing the project on 306 South 3rd.
Thank you. Have I missed anyone? Thank you, everybody, for attending. The next item on the agenda is item 2, review and approval of legal action report and minutes from the September 16th, 2025 meeting. And it was brought to my attention, and John Burr had noticed discrepancy in the LAR, and I was wondering if you would let us know about that.
Sure. On page 6, under call to the board, the first paragraph, it should be that Messrs. Burr and Greed updated the board on the September 8th, 2025 letter to HUD, outlining issues and process issues that are probably now pending for the Section 106 process now that SHPO has determined the contributing status for the structures within the All Saints project. Also, that APNA endorsed the letter.
Okay.
John, can you send that to me in an email, please, so I can update that, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you, John.
Do it as quickly as you can. The city clerk is now making us to send in the earlier no later than 3 days after the meeting.
Okay,
Thanks, John.
no problem.
Thank you. Any other comments or corrections to the LAR? Then do we have a motion?
I motion to make a motion to approve as noted with John's comments.
Thank you. Maurice, you were muted, so we didn't get your motion, but perhaps you want a second?
Yeah, well, I will second the motion.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to do a roll call for the vote. And we will start with Helen Erickson,
Aye.
Maurice Roberts,
Aye.
Stan Schumann,
Aye.
Lynn Sutherland,
Aye.
and Steve Grady. Aye. The motion passes unanimously. And now we can move to item 3, call to the audience. And Michael, have any public comments been received?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So that allows us to move to item 4, reviews. Start with SD-0125-00004, 306 South 3rd Avenue, continued. Renovation and restorations, exterior plaster, etc. So, I think we have a presentation.
Yes, we do have a presentation.
Okay. Are you Jose?
Yes,
Okay. Let me make you the co-host so you can present your. You should be able to share your screen now, Jose.
let me see. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
It's
It's
coming.
Mhm.
So I'd like to just present myself again. My name is Jose Curtis. We will be presenting this project here on 306 South 3rd Avenue. In our first review, the major things that we had proposed, the major repairs involved a stucco retexture of the exterior. This is something that we ran through Vint and Associates, and we received a stucco report from them. We also are planning on demolishing the asphalt shingles that are currently existing on this roof, and we're going to be replacing this with a standing seam metal roof. We will be repairing and replacing doors and windows. We are replacing a chain fence. We're going to remove a dead tree that is.
It
on the
looks like
back of the
my
property.
lights are wonky
Oh,
too.
Lynn, I'm sorry. Could you please mute yourself? Thank you. Sorry. Jose, please continue.
All right, I'll continue. So we're repairing and replacing windows and doors. We're gonna replace a chain link fence, an existing chain link fence that's surrounding the property. And we're demolishing a non-conforming structure that's to the west of the property, to the southwest. So these are the major repairs. As far as minor repairs, we're going to be adding a condensing unit to the back of the house. This is going to be the main cooling for the house. This is going to be behind a fence that we're also proposing, which I'll touch on a little bit later on. We're demolishing a water heater, an existing water heater that is on the back of the property, along with some electrical conduits that are not traditional. I think they were done after. They're not recorded anywhere, so we're going to be demolishing those. And it's currently in the works, but we're proposing to relocate the electrical service entrance. Right now, it's to the east. That is on 3rd Ave. It's kind of entirely up to TEP, but we're going to be in contact with them to try and relocate that service to the back of the house. The purpose of this meeting, as it is a continuation of the first, is to address some of the issues that were had in the previous meeting. Well, one of those major issues was the roof. So we're going to be replacing the existing shingles with a standing seam metal roof, but we hadn't spec'd anything out previously. And so here in the spec, what we are spec'ing out is what we're calling a Meridian panel. We acquired this from Wildcat Roofing LLC. And one of the major concerns with the profile was that it should not look, I guess, for lack of a better term, commercial. And so I drove around the neighborhood, and based off of what I could find, from what has been done, is this style of roof right here, which is the striated panel. So there's no ribs. The only thing that is giving this structure are the seams. Meridian does provide some with rims, as you can see here, minor ribs. We're not choosing that one. We're showing the striated. Another major repair that was an issue before was the fence. The house that we had uh, prior to this used was in a violation, and so that fence was also going to be a violation. So the fence that we're proposing here is going to be on the north, east, and a small portion of the south. It's going to be a wrought iron fence, 4 feet high, and a concern previously was the corrugated metal fence that we had proposed is not see-through on the street fronts. So we shifted to a more conventional wrought iron fence. As far as color goes, that's to be determined from the owner, but I think more than likely it might be a dark bronze. On the west end of the property, we are going to be doing a corrugated metal fence, just for privacy. Um, one of the comments we received was we had the corrugated metal fence previously with the corrugations running horizontally. So we have changed that to be a vertical corrugated metal fence on a metal frame. Another one of the issues we had prior was exactly how we were planning on restoring and or if we're going to be replacing any windows. Our plan moving forward, we didn't have much of a plan before, and what we think is best is we are currently in the process of choosing a contractor to that will be doing the renovation of the windows and doors. Our plan is to walk the site with this contractor, and if the board would allow it or agree, somebody from the board, I mean, from this board could also walk the site with us. And we would see each individual window, what is to be replaced, what's to be restored, what's to be fully reconstructed. The condition of these windows are pretty bad. I'll try and pull up some pictures. There's a lot of rot. There's a lot of things that probably won't be able to be salvaged. But with help from the contractor and with help from the board, um, like this door back here, we can reconstruct a window sash, and a window frame, so that can be reviewed also prior to us doing any demolition of any of the windows. The last thing that I want to talk about was the doors. It was brought to our attention that these doors that are existing with the X panels, they're not traditional to the neighborhood. So we have proposed to demolish these and in place have a more traditional door to the neighborhood, which I have called out here. It is a Geldwin door. It is an authentic wood exterior Geldwin door, and it's something that I feel like fits pretty well with the neighborhood. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much. Any questions and comments from the advisory board members?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Yes, Dan.
I think there's a little confusion on the doors and windows on the plan, but I think you clarified that in your statement. So I'll accept that in terms of what's being done. And that basically indicates whether or not they're going to be restored or replaced. When I went over to the site before the last meeting, the previous meeting, it appeared to me that a number of the doors and windows were in pretty bad shape and would be very difficult to restore. So I'm glad to hear that you're going to replace in kind if necessary. So that remains to be taken care of. On the window schedule on sheet A 1.0, you show a 2/2 window. You've got both 1/1 and 2/2s, and on your new elevation plans, it appears that you're maintaining the window type in their original locations, whether they're a single light 1/1 or a 2/2 double hung window. So I think I'm happy with that, but you got a typical window sash detail that shows a 2/2, and that implies that that's going to be the standard window throughout. But I'm assuming that you'll maintain the single light 1/1 where it exists now, and the 2/2, like you show in the typical window sash, would be the window used where you've got a 2/2 window. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. That will be something that when we walk around, we will keep what is existing. If there is a 1/1 or a 2/2. Um, the typical window detail that we provided was meant to kind of encompass both. And so whether you would do the 2/2 or 1/1, uh, this detail kind of applies to both. But you're correct. In our elevations, we show it maintained as what is currently existing, and that's the plan.
Okay. And then on SP 2.0, south elevation, you're showing on the plans a corrugated fence that is in a horizontal position rather than a vertical position. Go down to go through the drawing. See that you're indicating on this in the just to the left of the main door, you've got. I'm assuming that's a corrugated fence, but it's horizontal rather than vertical. Will that be vertical?
This corrugated fence on note one here, this is existing. That's something that I think the owner to the property adjacent put up sometime, we don't know when. But it is existing, and so what we're showing is how it is out there right now.
Okay, that isn't existing. Is it on your property?
It's right on the property line, and
Mm.
so we're kind of in between of how to tackle it. But I think ultimately, as now we show it existing, whether we demolish it and redo it, I think might be up to you guys. We're proposing to leave it existing.
All right. Well, if it's existing, I don't know that we can do much about that, but I did notice that it was horizontal rather than vertical. And then you're also calling out for a mill finished galvanized steel for the corrugated. I know that the galvanized steel is used in different locations around the neighborhood. I'd prefer it to be my preference would be a cold rolled steel, which naturally rusts and gives a warmer feeling. But I'll leave that to the rest of the board members and how they approach it. I would have that changed, but we can discuss that. Also, on the foundation detail, it does look like you've changed the size of the steel, which makes sense on the posts and the horizontals. I like that. I question whether or not, you want to do a footing like you've got shown and then have the anchor bolts to support the base, welded base on those columns. I mean, almost everywhere that I've ever seen is that the 2x2 steel tube is just placed into the ground and with concrete around it, and then the top is uh, soil or dirt, earth. And it's a much cleaner look, I think, than what you've got shown there. And I think it's fairly safe because the humidity in our area does very little damage to the steel itself. It's usually only surface treatment, so it's not a problem. So I'd prefer that you get that and you do that detail rather than doing the one you've got, because visually I don't find that very pleasing at all. So I would recommend that you go with a steel tube in the ground with concrete around it and then cover just an inch below the finished grade and then cover it with dirt. And then the final question I have deals with the door type. On our comments last month, we had mentioned a single light over a 3-panel. And if I remember correctly, when I went over to visit the house prior to last month's meeting, I thought I did see one door with a single light and 3 panels below, and that's what we had recommended, but you're coming back with a 6 light over a 2 panel. And I don't know how the other members of the board feel, but I would prefer to try to stay with a single light, which was the original door that was on the home, with it 3 panels below, or 3 horizontal panels below.
Thank you, Stan. I'm just going to correct that it's drawn as a 9 light instead of a 6 light.
I'm sorry, say that again, Steve.
It's drawn as a 9 light instead of a 6
I'm
light.
sorry, you're right, you're right. I'm sorry. I had 6 light on here, but you're right, it's a 9 light.
So, um, Jose, do you want to speak? That was quite a few. Do you want to, because I don't think that's a motion, Stan, is it? Those are just comments?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like what the rest of the board feels like on
Sure.
on the door type. Clarification on the windows, I think he's correct on that, so there's nothing to change there in terms of whether they're restored or replaced. On the wall, it's existing, as if it's existing, I don't think we have an option on that.
Mhm.
And, the only other, I did have one other question. There's existing wrought iron screen doors on the doors, and it appears that you're removing those and not replacing them. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, then the only other question, the two, I think, questions that I have, whether or not the board would agree that we should try to go with a cold rolled steel rather than a galvanized steel on the corrugated, and the other one was the door type. And also the detail at the base of the steel post for the new corrugated fences, with all the fences.
Okay, so let's do those 3 as a discussion, and then we'll look for a motion. The first question was a warmer color steel that corrugated metal that is less reflective. Jose, do you have a feeling about that, or do you feel that the client has a feeling about that?
Yes, so we chose the galvanized steel. We think that's easier to paint. And I think I did miss that point, but we will be painting this. And it will be the same color as the wrought iron fence, probably about a dark bronze. So there, it won't be reflective at all.
Okay, excellent. Then the second point is the detail of the posts that don't show the concrete coming to the surface, but just below the surface with a little bit of soil, decomposed granite, or other material to cover. Do you have a sense about that?
Yeah, I'd like to give my piece on that. The reason we go typically on fences in this style, it's a lot easier for construction. When you set the posts in the concrete, what you essentially do is I think it becomes a custom fence that you have to build on site because the posts might not set perfectly at a 90-degree angle. And so I think as far as for what our client would like, it's a lot easier to fabricate the fence at a shop and then have it trucked or shipped and then do the anchor bolts than to have to fabricate it on site when you cold pour the post into the concrete. That's our take on it. But we're willing to go with the second option.
Could I comment on that?
Yeah,
I mean,
Sure.
if you're fabricating them in the shop, that means that your post and your horizontals and your verticals are all welded together and they're ready to drop into place. So if you fabricate a fence, you can fabricate it in individual pieces or the entire length if you wanted to, bring it on the site, dig a hole after you got them on the site, and then just drop them in, pour the concrete, and you're done.
that work also. We could do that.
So I'm also noticing that in detail 3 wrought iron fence elevation, that the indication is that the concrete is below grade in that detail.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that how it is installed is less important than that you don't have all the concrete visible at the base of each post. Would you agree with that, Stan?
Sure, you're right. I missed that on the detail where it does actually show that the concrete is below finished grade. So yeah, if they want to do that, that's fine too.
Excellent. So then the last question is about the doors. The 9 right now you have a 9 light with the X panel, and then the recommendation, or what you're proposing is a 9 light with a 2 panel below. And again, it's a replacement door, so it doesn't have to, and it's replacing something that's not a historic door in currently. I'm not sure that the 2 or the 3 panel, and Stan, please clarify, if you feel the 3 panel below is very important, or is it that the fact that instead of a 9 light, a single pane would be more historically appropriate? Can we have a sense of I know what we had said last time is the 3 panel below, but do you have a sense of what it is that would be most important to change?
Who's that question for?
That's for you, Stan. So I'm curious about the
Um,
nine
I-
panel.
Yeah, my preference would, well, I remember, and I may be wrong, and I'm willing to listen to what other members might have to say, but when I went over to visit, I thought that there was an existing door that was in place. It was in poor shape, but it had a single glass light. It was smaller than the one that's shown on the new door, and it had 3 horizontal panels below that single light door. So that's what I thought was probably the original door, and I think that that would be an appropriate response to the door type that we put back on there.
So I'm just looking at other doors in the neighborhood, a single light or even a split light uh, um, uh, with the 2 vertical with the 2 panel is something we have in the neighborhood in houses of that time. So, Jose, have you been able to find any historic photos of the house that would indicate what doors were there historically?
I have not. The doors that are existing there have been on there for as long as I can see. Then that's this one right here with the X panel.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I went with the door that I went with was just north of this property on Third Street. I did find this dwelling, this building, and it has a very similar door, if
Oh,
not
I see.
exactly the same. It might exactly be a Jeld. And so that's why I went with that door. But Geldwin also makes a single light with the horizontal lower panel. So it's something that's very easily changed on the plan. But this is just as to why I decided to go this route.
Mhm. That makes perfect sense. Um, so I think that the Gelwin has the 2 panel below. I don't think that they have a 3 horizontal panel configuration, do they?
I think they have a 2 panel and a single panel.
Below. Okay. Stan, do you have strong feelings about that?
You know, I wouldn't strongly object to using the door that he's got shown. I just felt that probably a more appropriate door would have been the single smaller light with a 3 panel horizontal door. I find it hard to believe that that's not something that's relatively standard. I would think that even Home Depot or Lowe's might have something like that. But, you know, I'm not going to make a stand on that. I mean, if the rest of the members are satisfied with that door, then I'm willing to go with it.
Thank you. So I'm going to open it up to other members if they have comment on the door, the door replacements. So I think that, John, you have your hand up.
Yeah, the building that's showing the 9 light over 2 panel door is actually a Queen Anne cottage from a different development zone to the north that was built almost a decade later and is in a different style. The house we're talking about now, being built in 1893, probably had leftover windows, which would have probably been the 2/3, and then they bought a new one for the prominent front window, which would have been 1/1, which would have been the prevailing style. If they can't get horizontal panel doors, then a single light with 2 vertical panels would be more acceptable for the style and era of the building, in my humble opinion.
Mhm. John,
Um,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I've also got a couple of other things too, other questions, but the rest of the board should go on. Or I can continue.
Yeah, please continue with your other questions.
Sure. Jose, I'm confused about the attic vents. On both sets of plans, the ones from last time and this time, it says the attic vents are to be demolished and then they are supposed to be refinished. Can you explain what is going on with the 3 attic vents or 4 attic vents?
So the attic vents, we're taking the same approach as the windows. Some of them are rotted out.
But you
And
plan on replacing them in kind
yeah,
and
we're planning
repairing as necessary?
yeah, replace if necessary, repair when we can.
But they're going to look the same after you're done.
Yeah, the exact same. We're gonna take measurements and make it the exact same.
Okay. And then the plans we got is showing a gas stove, but the gas meter removed. And then the page you're showing, I just caught it for a half second, says there's an electric stove. What's the situation with the gas? Is it going away? Or you,
It had an existing gas and it is going away, so everything's electric.
okay. And then I looked into the Meridian roof panels. They're
Mhm.
made by McElroy Metals, and I'm surprised you were able to get it because there's no distributors in Arizona. But they do have painted versions. They have flat panel versions. And the one that I think you're indicating, it is kind of a striation, but it's not that bad. But the 12-inch would be more in keeping with the era of the building and the styles that were probably available at the time here than the 16-inch. It's
Yeah.
also a fairly complicated roof
Mhm.
with a multi-gable, so the smaller detail would look better.
I thought the same.
Okay.
But you might want to go for their brown paint because it gives you a 40-year instead of the 25-year galvanized that just seasoned with oil. But typically we approve, or the board approves, matte or naturally rusting metals rather than shiny, whether it's corrugated or roofing.
Okay. Again, I apologize for missing that, like I did on the fence, but we're planning on painting this as well. Color is to be determined, so it won't be shiny.
Okay.
So
I think that's it for me.
if there are no other comments or questions, then perhaps a motion.
I guess I could make a motion if there's no comments, but before we do that, I would withdraw my requirement for the corrugated, the cold rolled steel rather than the galvanized, because if so long as it's painted. But I would like you to note that on the drawings that the fence, the tubular fence and the corrugated fence will be painted
Perfect.
and provide that color.
So you can make that as a condition of the in the motion if you wish.
Okay, I make a motion that that the plans be approved as submitted with an understanding that the fence, exposed fence will be painted and that the the exterior doors, our preference is to be a single light with a double panel or triple panel if it can be horizontal, but we would accept a double panel on on those exterior doors. I think everything else was fairly well explained and accepted after Jose's explanation. So those would be the only 2 conditions that I would have.
Thank you, Stan. Do you have a second?
I would second the motion.
Marie seconds. Okay. Any other discussion? Then I'm going to call the vote. Helen Erickson. Oh, I'm sorry, John Burr, you have your hand up, so I guess you do have a question before.
Just a quickie. Do you need to add a minor review to look at the actual windows on site?
I think that that was part of the proposal. And then as soon as we're done with this, I think we can recommend who might be able to do that, Stan.
Fine, I just didn't.
Okay, so Helen Erickson has an aye. Maurice Roberts,
Aye.
Stan Schuman,
Aye.
Lynn Sutherland,
Aye.
Steve Grady, aye. So now that the motion has passed, we're looking for Stan, you traditionally do minor reviews. Would you be available to meet on site to look at the meet with Jose to look at the windows?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So the motion passes unanimously. Oh, aye. Sorry if I did not vote. Motion passes unanimously. Jose, thank you for your very thoughtful and sensitive work to this project. We're really excited about seeing the restoration.
And I'd like to thank you and the board as well for taking the time to hear my presentation out. I'm excited as well to get this going.
Thank you so
Where's
much.
Gabe?
He couldn't be here right now. He had an event.
Okay, well, say hi from us
All right, I will.
and let him know we weren't hard.
I'll tell him you guys were hard just so that he might feel sorry for me.
Okay.
He'll rewatch this video. He told me he was gonna rewatch it to see how I did.
Cool.
Well, you did very well. Thank you. Okay, so I'd like to move on to the next item, SD-1025-00156, 702 South 3rd Avenue, construction of a new 446 square foot detached garage in the rear of the yard. Do we have a presenter?
Yes, I just need permission to share.
That would be Miles.
Yes.
Okay, let me take care of that right now. God can see your name. Okay. Right.
And am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Miles Pena.
It is Miles. Okay, so I am pronouncing it correctly. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Miles, you might go ahead. Maybe
Okay.
the co-host.
Great. So is everybody able to see my screen here?
Just
Just
coming
a
up.
moment. There we go.
Great. So yeah, my name is Miles Pena. I'm an architect. I've been working with Jake Amaru on a detached garage for his property. I'm also a resident of Barrio Santa Rosa, just next door there. And somewhat confusingly, I'm also going to be taking over the 720 South 3rd ADU. So we'll get to know each other well. But for 702 South 3rd, the last time we met was for a courtesy review in July. Largely, the feedback was positive on the design direction, but there was some changes that were recommended that have been incorporated, and some other changes that weren't they're going to be difficult to incorporate for this scale of a project. So I'll review that here. But overall, the main goals for this structure, it's meant to be a pretty simple, well executed, kind of simply detailed utilitarian structure that complements the existing home without being mistaken for another historic piece in the neighborhood. So let's go. So within the Armory Park Historic Residential District, we're here on South 3rd Avenue and 17th Street. The garage itself will be facing towards and fronting on 17th, not on 3rd. It's going in the back kind of northwest corner of the property. So you can see, just as a refresher, there's some of the existing structures that kind of in disrepair that are going to be demolished in order to place this structure in. So I think overall that'll be a nice improvement for the street. Did a detailed study looking at the facades of the street frontages within the development zone. and presented those within the drawings here. Let's see here. So the changes since we last spoke, I missed in zoning for accessory structures like this to be under 12.3, and I did not, or to be under 12 foot. It was 12.3 before, and I did not get the comment, but when I was reviewing for another project, I caught that and dropped it down that 3 inches. The doors and windows have stayed in the same locations, but largely the main difference that has occurred was there was some discussion about the garage door and what that was meant to be like. You'll see in the previous iteration, the French doors that were here were just the single light kind of open, and then it was a fairly minimal style steel door. And the feedback on that was that maybe it was kind of too dark to go with the white color to match the stucco. And looking around the neighborhood at what garage doors were sort of existing. So some of these are within the development zone, some of them are outside of it. Other than historic existing wood doors, everything else is steel within the neighborhood. Even this newer project here on rail, or it's through Railroad that you can see the garage door, but the address is 741 South 4th. But it's a wood look door, but that's still a steel door on that property. And I ended up going with a model that was pretty similar to this new construction, or newer, not 2000s construction, on South Third, 500 South Third. So a very similar type of panel breakdown that sort of starts to mimic that look of the wood a little bit, but would still remain steel in order to kind of keep it operable by hand, as that's one aspect of that the owner does want. The overall dimensions of everything else have kind of remained the same. So simple square footprint, 2 sets of the French doors with the garage door that's sort of offset. And so it's about a 1.5 car garage. So the main goal for this is to store the motorcycles that he has on South Third Avenue. So again, another improvement in terms of, getting more vehicles off of the street and having them kind of within a private location here. The change that was hard to incorporate was moving away from the French doors. Being able to have that large opening to ventilate was a primary concern, especially because we're not adding any active or mechanical ventilation. There's under the eave, there's a product that allows for ventilation under the eave that is not visible. And then a built-in ridge vent along the top ridge of the roof. But otherwise, the ventilation is fairly minimal. Now, the suggestion was to consider a single door with 2 relights on the side. And one of the issues with this is it goes from being about a $2,000 door to a $10,000 or $12,000 door. So the alternative really realistically would be to just go with a single door. But I think at that point, the design would sort of suffer. And considering it's an accessory garage just meant to house motorcycles, the budget's not too large for this, that we can start going in on custom sets of doors. In terms of precedents, there was not a ton, but there's some bad examples within the development zone. So 801 South Third, I'm assuming it's a little bit narrower of an opening, but they have the sort of split French door that they've gone ahead and included there. I did see, outside of the development zone, but within Armory Park historic zone on 828 South 5th Avenue, that there is an exterior street facing French door. So there is some precedent within the neighborhood for that. But I think largely the argument is that we don't want it to be confused for something that's historic, and none of those doors face towards the street front. So they're fairly private, and they are going to be behind the existing wall that is there. If I can find that elevation again. So here you can see kind of the updated renderings where the door is sort of located. Updated door. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy between the renderings and the elevations, but it is a 10 light door that I found that is affordable for this project. And then here is the elevation of that specific garage door. And I thought both of these worked well. I don't know it's the front doors on this house, they kind of have a wood panel in these lower like 4 portions, and then it's like a 6 light um, uh, window above in the front door. And so overall, I thought that this approach to the garage door and the French doors here did a good job of complementing the house and kind of staying within the character of the neighborhood. Um, so yeah, no other materials have changed. The stucco is still matching the existing home with an asphalt roof that matches the existing home. And then updated renderings. So this is the existing wall and existing gate. So this is the view. It's kind of a perforated metal gate that's there. So you do have some views from the street. This is an existing driveway and curb cut that's already there. And then you can kind of see from the house, this is the view here, but from the street, you predominantly see this elevation and then about that much of the door. So I would also argue that when you're kind of passing by, whether it was a single door with the 2 relights that had the mullions, or it was a double set of French doors, the visual is fairly comparable. I was looking at it, if it was, double the price for the doors, I think we would have been willing to move in that direction. But to to have to, spend the vast majority of the budget of this project on these 2 sets of doors was a big ask for us. So yeah, that's my time.
Miles, thank you for your presentation. Any questions or comments?
Well, I guess I can go again, unless someone else would like to go first.
Yeah, I have a question regarding those French doors. I understand that you have a ventilation issue, and this is a garage, correct?
Correct.
So instead of putting some French doors, won't you put in some windows?
We do have 3 windows in the building. There's not great light or kind of ventilation because to the other side of the building on the west side, just because the fence is right there. But just kind of thinking about the use case of if he's in there wanting to work on the motorcycle or something, it'd be nice to be able to open up those doors and the garage door and just have some fresh air. And if you just look at the surface area of the opening of those doors in terms of bang for buck, it's hard to compare. We'd have to add at least another 4 windows to start to match that same sort of surface area.
So won't you have a window and a door, like a single door?
Just
I
to
mean,
increase the amount of openings because we do have 3 windows and then 2 sets of doors, including and then in addition the garage door.
I mean, I'm very concerned to the fact that those French doors are visible from the street. And I know that, some people have bypassed recommendations of not using French doors in the neighborhood since they are not original. Again, like I said, I cannot give my okay to a French door. If you need ventilation and lights, again, like I said, maybe additional windows and a single door as opposed to to a French door. If they want to come into the building to do the repairs, would probably work. Okay, I find that a set of French doors on that building is definitely not something that I would vote for. That's my comment, Stephen.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have any historical background on, I mean, this was the 1 set of French doors facing a street in the neighborhood that I could find.
It's a similar time frame to a lot of the projects, a lot of the houses in the Sam Hughes neighborhood, and pairs of French doors with multiple lights are historically appropriate in that situation. It's traditionally 1930s architecture. Now you are building something that is not that's
This
compatible.
home is
but-
1907.
Yeah, but it's compatible, but it's not, it doesn't need to specifically match the existing house in my sense. Okay, Stan.
I think John had a question.
No, I don't see John's hand up.
Uh, I was just going to clarify. There actually are a number of French doors in the neighborhood. The earliest are on Henry Trost houses. There are 7 of them. Most of them have sets of build of French doors, but they're scattered to the north in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So they exist from at least 1899 on, but they were somewhat typical for 1920s building, not so much in the Craftsman era.
Mhm.
And
Thank you.
then later in the 30s.
Lynn, I think you're unmuted again.
I know, and my cat walked over my keyboard, so I'm trying to figure out how to get back to you. Please disregard me.
Okay. Okay, Stan.
I've got several questions. The first one may have been answered. Are you using this garage for motorcycle storage only?
Correct.
Okay, that would answer my question because that curved entrance in there looked like it would be a little difficult to get in with cars. So if it's just motorcycles, that takes care of that problem. Second comment I have is maybe not under our purview, but it looks like the pool enclosure security has been modified and would not meet code.
Right. So the gap here in between the house is we're going to have to figure that out in construction to see where they can kind of demo. They might be rebuilding that wall back, but the goal is to get that within 4 inches of the new construction on this side.
Okay.
It's not shown here because this would be something that the fabricator would produce shop drawings for, but there will be a gate here to prevent a child from being able to make their way into that pool area.
Okay, I don't even know if it's something that we need to address, but I think it is something that should show in the drawings because you're going to have to address that when you get to the city. On your drawings, you call out Marvin Windows UW DH 3028. I'm assuming, I looked that up and I could not find that designation, the UWDH 3028. I'm assuming that is the ultimate wood double hung window.
Correct, yes.
So it's wood, but you don't give us anything in terms of the specification. There are 6 options in the specifications. You can go either with a pine or a hemp window, and I think because it's exterior, you don't want to go with pine.
Correct, yeah. That is something that I typically leave for the contractor to have more say. And once we see what kind of the options are, that was kind of just to get us a starting point, because who knows what's going to be available when we start construction sometimes. But they are going to be painted to match the accent color. And yes, we would want to avoid a pine for an exterior use.
Okay, I would be a little concerned about allowing a contractor to make final decisions on exterior materials. You know, they still have to maintain the design intent for the neighborhood. So, the pine windows, I would think is cheaper than the hemlock. So he may say, let's go with the pine.
Yes,
I just
yeah,
might-
and I typically have those submitted by the contractor and then reviewed by me personally.
Okay. The existing gate, I had a question on that, but when I went over to the site, it was obvious that was existing, so that was not an issue. And you've got some, obviously you don't have the full set of drawings here because you refer to structural drawings, but there's no structural drawings submitted with this, or electrical or plumbing. So there's no electrical, no plumbing, no mechanical?
No, there's no plans for any sort of mechanical, any electrical would be a future scope of work, but as of right now, the owner does not want to proceed with any electrical within that space.
Well, if electric is going to be future, don't you want to put some underground conduit or something in there so you don't have to go overhead, or how you handling the future electrical? I can understand maybe no mechanical and maybe no
Yeah,
plumbing, but you're
we
certainly,
So we're in discussions on that. We were potentially going to include in the foundation and a slab just a chase for electrical and maybe a future sink in that space if that was something that he kind of wanted. And so that would show up for the building permit to review as, making future access or easier for
okay.
that. But otherwise, at this point, if he wants to proceed, differently, then that'll be a different scope of work and he'll have to trench out as necessary.
Well, if there's going to be something exposed on the exterior, we'd like to know about it. I mean, if you're putting another panel there, we would like to know where the panel is going, and is it underground or is it overhead? So, I mean, those things should be noted for us to review, but if you're going to keep it simple and it's all underground, and then it's a non-issue with us, just you take care of it. You're gonna have to take care of it when you.
Yeah, I'll advise him of that, but otherwise he would have to, yeah, kind of go through this process again and get another review.
Okay, I've got two other questions. One is that you noted on the finish schedule PT1 and a PT2. I
Mhm.
couldn't find, I get, what, I don't remember what it was. If it was a PT1 or PT2 that I couldn't find.
Okay. Yeah, so PT1 is just the standard white that is to be color matched to the existing home, and then PT2 is the accent gray that is color matched to the
What,
uh,
where, how do I know where the gray is? Is that the trim or what?
yeah, basically the wood is pretty much everything that is wood is gray.
Where
So
does it
it's
say that on the drawings?
if you look at the window schedule and the door schedule here, so the door schedule calls out uh, a factory white finish for the garage door, and then PT2, which is that gray. And then in the finish schedule, that's where PT1 and PT2 are keyed in.
Okay, I didn't see that. So, okay, you got that covered. My final question is that you have an overhang on the east and west side, but you don't have an overhang. It's a flush condition on the elevation. There's no overhang at all. Now, I've walked around the neighborhood and I just don't find that detail used anywhere where you got a flush condition on one of the elevations um, of a house or a detached garage or anything. I found some that may have at least like a minimum 6-inch overhang. It's very small, but I find that lack of overhang is just, there's really nothing there to be, uh, it's something that's very unusual. You just don't find it in the neighborhood.
Sure. So that was kind of just largely part of the design in terms of the spacing of the trusses is a 16-inch, and that was kind of a design decision to go with because structural only required a 24-inch spacing. And so there's an extra truss in that system just to kind of have that detail of the exposed rafter tie and then a rafter tail. And then in just keeping with the simplicity of the structure, those two tails on the either end kind of die where the support ends.
Yeah, but
So there's no additional structure that's flying out to pick up
typically
at the eve
that's done
edge.
without riggers.
Yeah, so I mean, we could get under 2 feet, but then I personally without any additional structure, I just find that finish edge flying out just kind of loose to be unappealing.
I find that, I guess I don't know, I don't find it appropriate for the neighborhood. I think that some type of shadow line, even a minimal, if it's 6 inches, I mean, even if it's just, it could be extended out, that minimal amount would be acceptable. I just feel that flush condition is really not an appropriate detail for the neighborhood, but let's listen to what everyone else has to say. Maybe they're willing to accept it.
Yeah, so
prefer some
real
type
quick,
of
just a note
window.
on that too. It's not exactly flush. It sits outboard, but it's right now it's a couple inches outboard of where the stucco would end.
Well, how do you handle the couple of inches if you're using that truss?
Well, so that wouldn't be a truss on the two ends because
You're,
that's
you're talking about a 2x4 fascia or a 2x6 fascia. I mean,
right.
so it's an inch and a half.
Yeah, but I would call out for them to use a 1.5 inch member there. That I mean, that's what's going to be used for the trusses, and that's kind of what I've shown and drawn in the. Let me pull up the elevations here, but I understand the concern.
I guess if it wasn't, that's one of the few things that's actually seen behind the wall.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
it is, you've got the north face, which is that flush wall, which has no overhang at all. I guess that's the only thing that really bothers me about the design.
Okay. No, that's fair. I do. I wish that had come up in the previous review.
I didn't catch it then.
So
That's all I had.
thank you, Stan. Questions or comments?
I just wanted to share the same concern as Stan has regarding the overhang. It's that building does not look like the other buildings in the area. It looks different. I don't know. It just doesn't fit in. It's just a comment.
Wait. Do we have a motion? John Burr.
I just have a quickie. I would an overhang would probably be more appropriate. The French doors look okay, and the garage door is a reasonable on a new construction. For the pool enclosures, do you anticipate that being wrought iron or replacement wool? Because you're going to need to do a fair amount of something there. And does that need to be a minor review at a later date for connection? And then I had a question about the rolling gate that exists. Looking at Google Street View, sometimes it's got metal panels on it, sometimes it's got perforated, and sometimes it's open. What are you planning on making it more evenly obscure across the face for privacy?
No, there's no plans at the moment to touch or include this gate within the scope of this project. So the street view here with the perforated, kind of seeing that steel structure beyond is what's there currently.
All right, and your roofing says black shingles, but the ones that went on the house in February, March this year look like dark gray. Is that actually the fact?
That is, so I will update that.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Yep, that's it.
One quick question I would just like to know. It seems like there's still a little bit of maybe some people are on the fence with the doors, but the overhang, extending this out a foot would be a very easy thing to do and to incorporate, and I'm on board for doing that. So I guess just the initial review time was over 4 weeks to get in for this meeting, and we started back in July. So I'm just curious if this is something that I could get approved with guarantee of changes of including that overhang on those two sides, or if this will have to go through review to have that looked at for that detail.
Thank you. Thank you. Like it depends on the motion. So if we have a motion, and then we can make the motion contingent upon a change that you have agreed to make.
Okay.
Hi, I don't know how to make my hand go up, but that's okay. This is Lynn. I would like to make a motion that we approve the plans with the overhang of 6 to 12 inches over the two sides that are currently seen as flush. That the French doors and the garage doors be accepted as they are. That the roof color be changed to dark gray to match the main house rather than the black is currently stated, and that's my motion. Do I need to say anything else?
I think that you covered it well. Do we have a second?
Maybe add what's going to happen with the pool enclosure to secure that, because do we need to have that on our motion? How do we address the pool enclosure for safety per code?
And that the pool enclosure follows city guidelines for safety and enclosure.
Very good.
Now do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? Then I'll call the vote. Helen Erickson,
Aye.
Maurice Roberts, Maurice,
Hello?
we'll come back to him.
Nay,
Nay, thank you, Maurice. Stan Schumann,
Yay.
Lynn Sutherland,
That's okay. Yay. You just make me nervous if you call me Linda.
Steve Brady, aye. The motion passes 4-1. And Miles, thank you for your presentation and thought on this project.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Okay, so
Mr. Chair, who did not vote? Maurice?
Maurice is the no vote.
Oh,
Okay, so item 5 is minor reviews.
I've got one issue I'd like to discuss.
Please.
I was asked to take a look at 330 East 13th Street. That's Luis and Martha's residence. They're doing a porch on the back of it. It's a minor addition. And they asked whether or not I would consider that as a minor review, and I would have to say, yes, I would. I went over there this afternoon and talked to both of them and took a look at what was being done. And there is nothing that can be seen from the alley, the street, or from any other location, because the entire backyard is either blocked by two other structures or a tall fence. It's my understanding that they were asked to make it a major review. And, just a simple porch covering on the back of the porch, I did not see as being required to be a major review. And I'm asking whether or not, Michael, we can change that, because I guess you've asked them to submit for a major review. I'm asking you whether or not we can consider that a minor review.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the answer is no.
That's a no?
The answer is no.
Is there well, let me ask a question. If you have a minor porch addition in the back where no one can see it, would that have to be submitted as a major review?
The historic review process, Mr. Chair, members of the board, reviews all sides of the property, irrespective of whether it is viewed from the public right of way or not.
Well, I guess they did have a major addition to the structure in 2012, I think that is what I was told. And that the porch that they put on that addition at that time was approved. And what they're looking at doing is a minor addition to that porch, maintaining the same design same detailing, the same ceiling height, same usage of materials, and I would have to consider, I would have thought that would have been considered as a minor review, but you're saying it can't be reviewed as a minor review.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I am guided by the provisions of the code. It's really not minor reviews, according to the code, are limited to if you're changing a roof, you're changing a door, you're changing a window, you're doing a fence. Those are things that are spelled out as minor review. It's not subject to staff interpretation to determine whether this would be a minor or a full review. Any addition to the main property, a room addition, a porch, those are considered full reviews. They are not minor reviews. I actually wish I could do it as a minor review. They came to me today and said they talked to someone. In fact, they said they talked to John Burr, and John Burr told him that it was a minor review. So I was surprised that John Burr would say that. But
Michael,
yes,
for the record, I connected Stan and Marty to take a look at the project. She sent me the plans, and I have seen minor reviews for such things in the past, but that may not be what's being done currently. I did not tell her what the final outcome would be. Stan does the minor reviews now.
Lynn, you have your hand up.
Another question, what else is considered a minor review? Is a pool considered a minor review if it's not visible from anywhere?
yes.
Interesting.
That is why your project is being processed as a minor review.
And yet it's taken 2 months.
That particular project, my comments were due yesterday, which I did put in my comments yesterday. I am working on generating an approval letter for the director to sign. I did mention that to the pool person who came to the city today. That is where we are.
Michael, I thought when you sent me the submittal on the minor review for Lynn, you told me that you had 1 day before you had to issue your comments.
No, please, Mr. Chair, members of the board, let me explain this. Here is how the process works. When an application is submitted to the city, first you have an activity number, which is a TC-RES number. That is the very first thing that happens. It goes through a cycle. Once they discover that you are in the historic preservation zone, it is sent to the historic preservation office. At that time, when it comes to the historic preservation office, we then request that you apply for a special application number, which is the SD number. When you get that SD number applied for and issued, then the system will generate another round of review that will ask the staff to review for application completeness, which will mean that it is at that time that staff is looking at it to see whether everything that is required, either under the minor review or the full review, has been submitted and is ready for the board, either Armory Park or Plans Review, to review the application. Once staff confirms that everything is complete, is ready for review, the project is then sent to the board. At that time, it will be sent either to Armory Park, or the staff will schedule a review by Armory Park and later on schedule a review for Plans Review Subcommittee. In the case in question, what happened, which I think probably was my fault, and I take full responsibility for that. As soon as the TC number came in, I had not reviewed this. I just saw that it was in Armory Park, and I sent it to Stan to take a look. And at that time, there was no SD number. I could not even invoice the review fees. So I sent it to Stan at that time prematurely, in the hope that my thinking at the time was, if Stan can look at it, if PRS can look at it, by the time we get to getting an SD number and trying to send it to the board, I would already have sent it to the board, we'll be able to gain some time. That did not happen. So when Stan reviewed this and sent his comments back to me, which I received, I didn't have an SD number at the time. I had requested for an SD number. Stan reviewed this in September, I believe it was September 29. I got the SD number generated on October 1st. I then proceeded to invoice the fees, which was paid on that day. And the next round of review was due October 20th, which was yesterday. In the meantime, I know that the application was complete. I put in my review, I put in my comments. At this point in time, the applicant does not need to do anything. I'm generating the approval letter, which I'm going to send to the director. Once the director sends the approval letter, I am going to send it to the applicant, and the applicant can proceed to permitting. I think maybe going forward, I will really, rather than send it ahead before the SD number is generated to Stan, I will have to wait until I get that before I send it to Stan so that he can do his review. So again, I think all this is because I sent it out quicker than I was supposed to do. And I take full responsibility for that. My goal was to hasten the process. But right now, where we are, I will generate the approval letter, I believe, tonight, and I will send it to my director to sign. And that will conclude the history review process.
Thank you for your explanation. Any other questions or comments on minor reviews?
I think, I got a question. John, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Weren't you in the process of modifying the regulations dealing with the design requirements and the details that we have to meet? I mean, I guess what I'm asking is it possible that we could have a better definition of what classified as a minor or major review in the documents?
both Helen and I was going to bring this up under item 6, call to the board. Both Helen and I are working with a new subcommittee of the Historical Commission to look at needed changes both to the code and to the process, because there have been process failures across the board. Frankly, Michael had to carry a very big load with very little oversight for a long time, and he's trying to catch back up on things. But the code is more specific than it was previously applied. But there are also significant problems. For instance, there's a $1,500 cutoff that needs to go away because a new roof, which can be done as a minor review, can cost $55,000.
Yep.
There isn't any point in having certain things like that still in the code. They are looking at efforts to streamline, but there will need to be a longer process for code revisions to substantially change major parts of the code and how they are applied and reviewed. So staff is attempting to streamline, but there are limitations within the code to doing so. I'll keep you updated on that as we move forward. Helen, do you have anything to add? She may have had to step away.
No, I'm trying to get to the mute. What John says is basically the situation. However, I should add at this point that what we're going to start with, it's a question of how much we can do at one time. And the first thing that we're focusing on is the administrative directive, which sort of summarizes the generic policy. So yes, we hope to come back to this, but I would say that you're going to have to be a bit patient because we only have, a meeting a month, and this is a big, complicated project.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, members of the board, I want to concur what John and Helen are saying. We are actually in our office. We're trying to do a lot of process improvement. We understand that there are issues, particularly with our permitting system. Some of them, most of them are beyond what we as staff can actually do. The code itself does not give us a lot of flexibility on certain things, which I believe John and Helen working on this committee are quite aware. We are more than willing to accept any changes or any proposal that the board can bring up. Please give it to John or to Helen what you feel can be done to improve the process. And we are, as staff, we're here willing to work with you and to accept any changes or any proposal that you can make that will make it more user-friendly. That is basically what we're here trying to do. If in this particular case, the case of 330 East 13th Street, if the board feels that way, I can get back to my supervisors and I can talk to them. And if they so determined and so think that they have the authority to change it from from a full review to a minor review and direct me to do it as a minor review, I'm more than willing to do that. It's not that I'm not willing to do that. I'm willing to do that. If they direct me to do that, yes, I can do that. And again, the item, just like stand as, the section of the code is very clear on what can be done as a minor review and what can be done as a full review. And John rightly said, when you look at the section of the minor review, they talked about $1,500, that the project should be under $1,500. There's actually nothing, honestly, that we are looking at today that is under $1,500. Just changing a window or just requiring somebody to put a wood window on any property is very easily over $1,500. So please send in your comments, help us to come up with things that we can do to improve the process. Thank you.
Lynn, you have your hand up.
I do. Helen, John, whoever else this may apply to, I am more than happy to help you in whatever capacity I can to knock out some more realistic protocols or guidelines or whatever you would like to call them. I joined this board because I thought I was going to be helping my neighbors navigate historical preservation and make meaningful renovations to their homes. Disregarding my personal experience, I feel that more roadblocks are thrown up than actual assistance is given. We're arguing about things that cannot be seen behind 6 and 7 foot walls. I don't see how this helps the neighborhood.
One thing about it is, for instance, Desiree was talking. At one point, just it goes through a number of committees to even be assigned a number for a permit through the main portal. But
Mhm.
it was taking between 30 and 52 days to have an SD number assigned. They're going to try to get that cut back to 15 days over the next few months. That is
I
a goal.
understand that.
That's a goal of the department now. So it should speed up things to a particular degree. The whole, I mean, minor reviews used to be you called, Nadine Rund and Sharon Chadwick and gave them a cocktail and they came over and said, yeah, keep going. That looks great. That's because the city didn't charge fees. When they updated the code, they made it very expressly difficult. That was not enforced until the city became dependent upon the fees from the planning department, and so wanted absolutely everything, including broken glass, to be reviewed. And that didn't start until 2017. So we're trying, but the code does very specifically say everything has to be reviewed on site. That hasn't happened since COVID. There's a whole bunch of things that are not in alignment with the process. So we're looking at efforts to speed these things up and make them better, but it will take some time. I will say that the new planning director, Corinne Manning, is very interested in fixing deficits like this in a timely manner because the process has not been working for a very long time.
So there are two issues here. One is the process, and the second is whether or not an item be reviewed in the same way if it is not visible from the street. And that is something that is outside of our purview. That is what we were directed. But it is something that could potentially be discussed further, but it's outside of our determination, if that makes sense.
Can I add something quickly?
Yes.
It just sitting on the other side of this, it would be nice if there was some way to have like a pre-courtesy review or just something that was more informal before, as a designer, we've spent a lot of time on the project and before everything is kind of decided. Like the project that I'm taking over for 720, that was $5,000 of design fees. That's just kind of down the drain. So by the time we get to the courtesy reviews, we have things at a pretty high level, kind of ready to go, where it's harder to make the changes. But it would be really nice just early on because the Armory Park guide from like 1977 gives us a somewhat of a sense, but it's not very clear in terms of like the exact way to move forward. So there's a lot of ambiguity about, I respect the board here and I respect the decisions that are in the direction, but it would just be nice to be able to work that in earlier in the design process.
One of the code still does currently say that you are supposed to go to the advisory board and seek advice before you consult the city. That has changed, and now the city wants you to go to them before they go through their very lengthy process before you can get advice to save you money. We are trying to get that back so your first point of contact is talking to an advisory board member who can give you advice to streamline an application process.
John, I think, this is Helen. I think that one of the things that everyone is aware of, and if you go back and look at the study that we did a year ago, 2 years ago now, John?
Yep.
One of the points that was consistently brought up was more information at the early stages of a project because it's frustrating to everyone to have to review a project when it's at 90%, when really it could have been a much better project had there been collaboration from the beginning. So I think you're going to find that that's one of the things that we will be reiterating as we go through this process. And so you're right. You're absolutely right. It's a waste of time to do it the way we're doing it now.
There's one additional item, and that's just something that, because we're a volunteer board, has been bogged down, but we are looking at completely reworking our guidelines. We're about 85% done with that process. it is very time consuming and it has to go through a lot of review, and we haven't successfully navigated the review. So, but that is something we're hoping to have put together. I'm hoping sooner rather than later, but it's a process that's been bogged down.
And on
Thank
that point,
you. Thank
Michael,
you. Yeah.
Yes,
Michael,
yes.
I mentioned it and it shows up in the minutes. When you go to the historic preservation and then you click on the various links for
Uh-huh.
HPPs, under the Armory Park design guidelines, all that's there is a page with the funds we're getting for the park renovation. But the old old guidelines as part of 5.8 or 9-02 and the handout that everyone uses as standard guidelines have disappeared from the website. Can you see that they get restored?
John, yes, that's why you found it on the legal action report. I have brought this up to people higher than me. I brought this issue up, and the issue is not just for Armory Park alone. Almost all the advisory board, all the design guidelines are not even on the website at this point in time, and they said they are working on it. I have brought it up. I have
Thank
not
you.
forgotten. I will still bring it up again this time. I mean, so yes, that's why it is on the listing. And then referring to what the architect said, yeah, I'm confirmed by Helen and even John. Yes, there used to be a time where we insisted of pre-application meeting with staff. We encouraged and recommended people to go to the advisory board and talk to them before they start designing their projects and all that kind of stuff. Yes, we did all of that in the past. Maybe it worked. I don't know. The new permitting system that we have, even for you to come to the advisory board, you cannot just call me and say, I have this project and I send you to the advisory board. You have to go to the TDC online and apply for a courtesy review before you can get to the board. Whereas in the past, it was just easy. John is chair. I can just say, hey, John, we have this person who is coming to you as a courtesy, or John calls us and say, okay, I have this person who has talked to me and wants to do a courtesy with the board. So when you're doing the agenda, please put this item on the agenda. That's what used to happen in the past. It's not happening now because of the way the system is. But with the process improvement that John and Helen and the other people are working on, I think we'll be able to iron these things out. And a lot of this kind of money that is spent like that is not going to happen. And sincerely, I understand the frustration of many applicants and many users. Please just bear with us and give us time. We are doing our best to try and make this thing much more easier for you. So people out there don't just hear historic preservation and everybody is giving all these negative comments about historic preservation. But do help us so we can do this better for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Lynn, you had your hand up. No. Oh, okay. So, then let's go to item 6, call to the board.
Oh, before we get to that, I do have a pending minor review. I am
Okay.
going to contact Stan on that as soon as everything gets ready for the board to review. And that will be at 209 East 16th Street.
Okay. Thank you. And Stan, thank you so much for doing these minor reviews. Okay. Next item, call to the board, number 6. Anything come into the board or anything to discuss? John.
I don't know if any of you have found anybody else who's interested in joining the board. I don't think anybody terms out, but Helen may be interested in moving back more to the commission next year. So traditionally and per the bylaws, the advisory board holds a concurrent special meeting with the Neighborhood Association Board. This year it's on November 12th. It's live. It will require a quorum of 4 people to attend. The agenda usually takes 4 minutes, and it's for any names that have been submitted if you have them. The board can also in December or another time appoint people for membership if that's determined at a later date. I'm happy to run again, but I'm not sure that the city considers me completely out of the picture these days. But we all should be thinking about it because the board may need to be doing that, and Michael should be aware that that there could be a special meeting with an agenda request from Steve for a November 12th meeting from 6:30 to about 6:35 at Safford School live.
Ooh.
Yes, I'm aware of that. You just need to let us know and then we can schedule that.
Okay.
Steve,
don't have
I'm willing to attend that meeting if necessary.
Thank you. I'm teaching at that time, so that's a really tough one for me to attend, especially since it's in person.
What's the time
Steve,
again?
this is Helen, and I can attend that meeting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Stan?
I could also attend that meeting. Could you send us an email just as a reminder, Stephen?
Lucy will come too.
Okay. Stan, are you able to attend? And that would be 4.
Lucy,
What's the date and time again?
It's on Wednesday, November 12th at 6:30 at Safford School in the auditorium.
November the 12th. Hang on.
It's a Wednesday
Oh.
because the 12th is a holiday and the school is closed.
November the 12th is a holiday? That's not a holiday. That's a Wednesday.
November 11th is a holiday, so it's
Oh,
it's the
Veterans
12th.
Day.
no, I'm out of town that week.
Then
Sorry.
we'll need to get well,
So, John, is it the 11th or 12th?
it is the day after Veterans Day. So I believe it's the 12th. I think that's a Wednesday, isn't it?
It is a
That's the
Wednesday.
12th.
I can, oh, that's going to be so tough because my class goes till 7:10.
Possibly
Okay.
Matt.
Can you tell us again what is the subject of the meeting?
It's the board always asks the neighborhood if anyone wants to join the board for the following year as a board member, because it is the largest meeting of the neighborhood association and the bylaws outline it has the standard practice for getting new applicants to the board if you want others to join you for 2026. And it needed to be brought up so that an agenda could be generated and staff would be prepared if anyone has any candidates.
Okay.
Is it the
Well,
same day as the APNA meeting?
Yes, it's David opens the APNA meeting and then immediately closes. Then we call a meeting and ask for nominations or nominations from the floor 3 times. And those names get forwarded to Steve, who forwards them to the city for vetting and placement on mayor council agenda in January.
So I will be there then.
okay, thank you. And I'll do my best to attend. I'll just see if I can get coverage for that time. So, John, you still have your hand up. Did you have another?
No, that's it for me.
Excellent.
Okay, I do have an announcement.
Yes.
As you folks probably know, okay, besides being on the ABZAB and APNA, I'm also the commissioner for Ward 6 for the Tucson Parks and Recreation Department. And we just got a resume of the City of Tucson financial year 2026 coming up. And there's going to be some huge cuts in the planning and development services, among other places. So there's a big budget shortfall, and I don't know how much we're going to be involved, as far as the historic preservation. Uh, Michael, have you heard anything yet, or so far you haven't heard anything?
No, I have not heard anything. And if there are cuts, the cuts are department wide. It's not just for historic preservation. So I've not heard anything in particular.
Okay, well, the whole planning department is being affected by it, along with the Parks and Recreation and police and other city agencies. So heads up, this is happening. Okay, so that was my part of the news for tonight.
Thank you, Maurice.
I doubt they'll cut the Historic Preservation Office because it's been deemed critical by the current administration for actually dealing with issues that the city's been caught out on.
Thank you,
Well,
John.
the city is short a few $1 million, and cutbacks will have to come from somewhere. There's already a list, like I said. I don't know exactly which department, how each department is going to be affected, but I have a meeting tomorrow at Parks and Recreation, and it's already on top of the agenda. Okay, this was just set it up, so you should know what's going on.
Thank you, Maurice, and we'll keep an eye on that. Okay, now number 7, staff updates and future agenda items, information only.
Next month, the All Saints project will be on the agenda for review.
So that will be the November meeting?
That will be for the November meeting.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what project?
All Saints?
Okay, thank you.
Michael, can we assume that they've revised it substantially?
They have. I do not have details to provide to you now, but they have.
Okay.
Thank you.
And
So,
secondly, another project that will be coming to you. You remember you did a courtesy review for, I believe it's 726 South Bean Avenue. Somebody came to you for that review. They came up with a different concept for what had been proposed on that vacant lot. And I saw a submitter. I have not yet reviewed it, but if I review it and it is complete, then that should be coming to you also in November.
That was the double duplexes with rammed earth.
Yeah.
okay. Excellent. Thank you, Michael. So if there are no other items, then we'll move to adjourn at 8:14 p.m. Thank you all for attending, and I look forward to seeing you. Hopefully, I can make it to the APNA meeting and then to the next advisory board meeting.
And in the meantime, if any of you can pull neighbors or other people who might be interested, search them out. This is the time to do it.
Thank you, John. Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you all.
Goodbye.
Take care.